Yesterday, Michael Madsen died at age 67. I was really surprised. He's not exactly elderly, but he had some kind of heart issue. But I was bummed out by that one. I've seen Michael Madsen in a few great films, and I saw a few of them in the movie theaters too, which was great. The only one I didn't see in the movies was Reservoir Dogs, but I was too young when that came out to see that. But I saw Free Willy at the movies when that came out. I saw both volumes of Kill Bill. I actually saw Kill Bill Volume 2 twice at the movie theater. So and then about 11 years later in The Hateful Eight. And technically he was also in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but that was just a cameo. I've been working this week, so I haven't read what other films Madsen has been in. So I may have seen him in other things, I just don't remember off the top of my head. But these films were pretty special. I'll go in order. The movie, or Kill Bill got me into Quentin Tarantino. He's possibly my favorite director, my favorite living director. Stanley Kubrick is pretty tough to compete with for all time. But I saw Kill Bill Volume 1 when that came out in around October 2003, and and then after I saw that, I saw Pulp Fiction, and eventually I saw Reservoir Dogs, where Michael Madsen played Mr. Blonde. And I remember the scene where he cuts off the police officer's ear and all that stuff. And a lot of people love Reservoir Dogs, and it's not a bad movie, but it's not my favorite of Quentin Tarantino's work. But still very good. I saw him in that. And the first movie I ever saw him in at the movie theaters, and I guess the first movie I ever saw him in, period, was Free Willy. I think most people like Free Willy. Everyone remembers it. It's kind of like Jurassic Park. It's one of those movies I've never heard anyone say anything bad about it. I think most people like Free Willy, and it's a great movie for families to watch, and it's a great movie for anyone to watch, really. It's not a bad film at all. And when I was a boy, I'd never seen anything about rescuing a whale or just anything. And people now, especially in the age of IMAX, they talk about movies, people who actually go to the movie theater. If a movie's really great in IMAX, they say, it's one you think of as one you should see in the movie theaters. And Free Willy was like that. If Free Willy was re-released today, it would be great if they updated it to be seen in 3D or IMAX or whatever. I think that would be a lot of fun to watch. And so Michael Madsen was in that, and I haven't talked to my father in over 7 years, and I haven't seen him in I think 18 years. And so I saw him as a kid and everything, but now that I'm 40 years old, and close to 41 actually, 41 in about 53 days. So it hits home a little more, just seeing a movie where a boy is really distant from the people who are raising him. That movie is just as much about Jesse as it is Willie. And Michael Madsen was great in that. And so what was Free Willy? 93, 94, around there. But roughly 10 years later, Kill Bill comes out, and I had never seen Quentin Tarantino film. I'd heard of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, but I had never seen them. And, I was 19 when Kill Bill came out, and it just looks so cool. I saw screenshots in like USA Weekend or whatever. It came with the newspaper, and I think there was a scene where the bride was fighting the Crazy 88 in Japan, and it just looked so different, and different than anything I had ever seen, and it definitely was when I saw it at the movies. And that was a great story too. Michael Madsen is barely in the first one. You see him for like 10 seconds, and then there's a short clip of him at the end where he's talking to Bill, David Carradine, and it kind of gets you pumped for when the second one comes out. But I got my license that year, and I tried driving to where was it? Rahway. I had gone on a trip to New York with a friend, and he had a cousin there, and we parked in Rahway, so we could park for free. And then, we took the train to New York City, and I just tried doing that by myself, but, I didn't know my friend's cousin, and I just ended up joyriding there, and then, I didn't know where else to go, so I just drove back to East Brunswick and visited my grandfather. And, then we just decided to go to the movies, and that's when I saw Kill Bill. And it wasn't just that it was a great movie. Just seeing it with my grandfather was just made it that much greater. And this is back in 2003. I didn't have a digital camera or anything like that. People didn't take pictures of everything, but it's just one of those things. I wish I could have, because it was just such a special day. But 6 months later, Volume 2 of Kill Bill came out, and Michael Madsen was great in that. Just the whole first half of the movie with him working at the strip bar, and just he just played such an interesting character. And of course, I don't want to spoil the movie, but just his scene with Elle Driver, Daryl Hannah, and the way he gets killed, it was just a great performance. I really think Volume 2 should have been nominated for an Oscar. It was just that great. But and the soundtrack from Volume 2 I think was better too. That's when I first heard A Satisfied Mind by Johnny Cash. I heard it in that movie. Bud listens to it while the bride is sneaking around trying to kill him. And it's just very, very good scene. Well, finally, a few years later, I saw The Hateful Eight, and he played not exactly the same character, but a similar looking character. They both wore cowboy hats, and Michael Madsen played Joe Gage in that movie, and The Hateful Eight was really great too. I think Kill Bill Volume 2 was a little better, but still a very, very entertaining movie. And Rebecca was pregnant with Preya at the time. I'd already met Rebecca, and we weren't together at that time, unfortunately. And I wish I could have seen it with her. I saw it at the movies on Christmas Eve. I worked my shift at Macy's, and then the Regal Henrietta movie theater was around the corner from Marketplace Mall, and Macy's was a zoo that day, and no one even bothered to put all the clothes back. It had been so busy, and there was so much to do. We just left it all for December 26th, and I was grateful when my shift ended, and I miss Rebecca a lot, but I went to the movies, and it was The Hateful Eight was a great movie. I think Kill Bill, both volumes, and The Hateful Eight, they really belong in the same category as Pulp Fiction. They're just really excellent films, and Michael Madsen was great in that. So, you know, this actor has had a real impact on my life. Just so many great films. And there are a lot of lists out there of actors who are really good, and but they've never been nominated for an Oscar or an Emmy or anything like that. They said that about what's his name, Donald Sutherland, when he died. That's true. He was a very great actor, but he was never nominated. And Michael Madsen would be on one of those lists. I think he was just a great actor and did a lot of great stuff, man. So it's sad he's no longer with us, and we'll pray for him and his family, and I'm glad he's up there with God now. God bless you, Michael Madsen, and thank you for all the memories.